Okay, today we're going to look at creating a walk cycle animation in Edge Animate. As you see in my library, I've already imported all the elements I need. So the first thing I want to do is quite simply drag them onto the stage. And here they come. As you see, as they can be put onto the stage, they appear here in my elements window on the right, the palette on the right, okay, and also down here on my timeline. First thing I need to do, now that they're all here on the stage, is reorder how my elements are in my elements palette over here. We want to put them into a logical order. So first of all, I want to move the head up to the top, the torso down in between the front and back elements. And then I want the upper arm at the top. Okay. So if you get on and put them in order, so I want head, front, upper arm, lower arm, upper leg, lower leg, then the torso, and then... Okay, so now we have all our elements in the correct order, and I've just moved the parts around, the elements around on the stage, just so they're a bit easy to work with. Okay, what I want to do next is convert all these individual elements into a symbol to tidy up our timeline. So if you just click and drag to select them all, okay, and then we're going to convert them into a symbol. So modify, convert to symbol, or the shortcut Command Y. We'll bring up the create symbol window and just give it a name. So I'm going to call it Walker, but anything you like. What's happened is now that it's converted it to a symbol, you'll notice that my timeline is now tidied up. It only has one element on it, which is the walker. So to work with the elements, the individual parts again, if I double click on my symbol, okay, it now moves me with inside, okay, my symbol, and I have all the individual elements again. The next part of the process is to change our tools and go to Q or Transform tool. Okay, and then what we're going to do, I shall just zoom in a little bit, is we're going to work on each individual element. By selecting it, you'll see that in the middle we have what we call our anchor point, and we're going to move this so that we can rotate our individual elements as we need to animate the walk cycle. So work your way through each part, moving the anchor point. Okay, and then if you need to test it, just mouse over the corner till you get that round symbol, the arrow symbol, and you can check your rotation. Okay, so work on through all of them. Okay, so now if you select all, you can see that I've changed all the anchor points, so each individual part is now ready to be animated. So the next part of our animation is from the library. I'm going to drag on the last image, which is walkcycle.jpg. Okay, we'll drag that onto the stage, and this we're going to use as our template. So this has the individual poses on, so we want to put that to the bottom of our elements, so it sits behind everything else. We're going to move it so that the first pose is which we're going to copy first. Okay, let's move that up, and then let's just make it a bit bigger, so scale it to fit the character parts you have drawn. And then once we're done with that, let's lock that off. So you can either do that in the elements or down here on the timeline. Click on the little dot that's next to the eye, and that is now locked, so we can't move it. Now all we need to do, okay, I'm going to zoom in a little bit again, okay, is using our transform tool, is move all of these parts so they sit over Okay, so we start to copy below the pose below. All right, so carry on and do that and get the whole pose created. Okay, so now I have traced over the first pose in the 5 frames there on the walk cycle template. So what we need to now do is let Edge Animate know that this is our first pose. Now we're working in frame to frame animation today, so the first thing we're going to need to do is, with our playhead at 0, is turn off the auto transitions. Okay, we're not going to need any tweening or transitions in this as we're working frame by frame. So we turn that off. It's the first thing we need to do. Next thing we need to do is come down to the bottom right hand corner and drag that slider there to magnify our timeline, as we're going to be working in very short time frames, okay, on our timeline. So we want to be zoomed right in on our timeline. Then let's select the whole of our walking person, our character, so that all the individual elements are selected. Now what we need to do is to tell Edge Animate, we need to locate each piece so it knows on the first keyframe this is where it starts. We're also going to tell it what its rotation is. And so because we're doing more than just moving on an X and Y axis, we need to change it from XY motion in the position and size in the properties palette, okay, into motion paths. Okay, we're doing more than just moving horizontally and vertically. We're going to be moving and rotating. And then coming down into the next little section under global, we're going to click the XY, which is going to give us a location. So we click the little button there, the little star, little diamond, sorry, that'll give us a keyframe. That'll take us a couple of seconds to drop in. And that's going to create a keyframe locating each one of those elements. Now we're going to move down to the next part of that palette, into the transform. And the bottom right is our rotation. And once again, all we're going to do with everything selected is click the little diamond to add a keyframe for the rotations. So we're knowing that these are the points they're starting at. Okay, so our front upper arm is starting at a 41-degree angle. Okay, so we've now located everything in the first stage. Now move your playhead up to 1/10 of a second, which we can type in. So it's 0000.100. And now working with that playhead there, we're going to unlock the background. We're going to move the background along so the second pose is behind our character, and then lock the background again. And your job now is just to recreate that second pose. Okay, so we'll get on with that and then we'll have a look at the next stage. Okay, so now we've completed the second pose. So it's a simple manner now of continuing the same process for the next 3 poses. So first of all, we move our playhead up to the next stage, which is 0.2 of a second. So move the playhead first, then unlock your walk cycle template, move it across so that the third pose is behind your character. Lock that layer again, okay, and then go through the same process, okay, of copying the pose again. Continue that on now for the next 3 poses. So this one, and then the up, and then the contact. So you should have 5. There'll be at 0.1 of a second, 0.2 of a second, 0.3 of a second, sorry, 0, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and 0.4 of a second. And then we'll have a look and see what the next stage is. Okay, so what we should now have is 5 poses. If I drag the playhead back to 0, and I press the spacebar to play it, oh, there we go, I should get 5 movements. Pretty quick together. Okay. So at 0 we have the pose 1, and then we have pose 2 at 0.1 of a second, pose 3 at 0.2 of a second, pose 4 at 0.3 of a second, and then finally pose 5 0.4 of a second. Now this is only half a walk cycle. So if you can see here that the front foot has made contact, okay, then it bends down, rises up, and then the back foot has made contact. we now need to do 1, 2, 3 poses again. The down, the pass position and the up, this time with the back leg doing the poses of the front leg. So this one here, now in stage 2, that will be the back leg, okay, and that will be the back arm. That will be the back leg, that will be the back arm, that will be the back leg, that will be the back arm, okay, and the next step takes us back to where we began, if that makes sense. So you need to do is just continue again. So we can move it to 5/10 of a second, okay, unlock our walk cycle, move it across the second pose again this time, back behind our character. We can lock that off again, and this time, okay, we just continue in the same pose, whereas this back leg now is replicating the front pose. Okay, we'll continue with that, and you're going to do 1, 2, 3 more. What you'll be left with is 8 sets of poses. Okay. Okay, so now we should have finally 8 poses. The initial 5, the contact, the down, the pass position, up, and contact, and then another down, pass position, up. We're going to create a looping animation now so that this walk goes continuously. So the idea is that when we get to frame 8, the next frame will be frame 1, back to where we began. Okay, so that should loop perfectly. So very simply, to make this loop, we just need to make the playhead go to the end of our animation, okay, which is 0.7 of a second at the moment. And then we click on our actions, which is here, just on the very top layer of our timeline, the 2 little brackets. Click the little diamond inside it, and then we let the code write itself. So we go to playback because we want it to play. What do we want it to do? Well, we want it to play. What do we want to play? We want the symbol we've created to play, which is Walker. Now double click that or hit return. Your code has been written, symbol.play. All that action's done, it make sure it's at the end of your timeline, okay? It'll play through your 8 frames, get to the end and tell what does it want to do, go back to the beginning and play again. So at this point, let's take our playhead back to 0. And then let's go to the very bottom where our walk cycle is. Let's unlock our walk cycle. And we can either delete our walk cycle, or as long as we're on 0 on our timeline, we can come up to the top here in our properties and just turn it off. Okay, so we're telling it to hide it. Okay, now that's our animation finished for now. So let's click back on the top up onto the stage. Let's go back onto our main stage. Okay, and then we can test our animation. Okay, there we go. So there's a single walk through there. And then we can test it in the browser by hitting Command Return. And it should loop away. There he goes, looping away. Okay. And that is a simple walk cycle. Okay, so good luck, and that's it for now.